Andrew Freddie Flintoff is a wild beast on and off a cricket field.
There's certain things which I'm more proud of than others.
Freddie became one of the great English sporting heroes after the 2005 Ashes.
Freddie Flintoff!
But what came after that was not so good.
I have made a few mistakes. Downing Street, drinks, peddlers.
Andrew Flintoff has apologised for letting down fans and the team after his late-night drinking binge in St Lucia.
I think people assume that Freddie is one of these, happy-go-lucky kind of guys. Actually, he's much more complicated than that. He's admitted now to having bouts of depression, being bulimic.
I regard myself as a pretty honest bloke. I'll give him an honest answer.
He will have no control. That's what's going to make this a lot of fun.
I would sooner face any bowler in the world with no pads, no gloves, no helmet, no box, than spend an evening being questioned by Piers Morgan. I like to say an evening with Piers Morgan.
See, they're all suddenly cheering there. You're like a national treasure, aren't you?
It's a little bit embarrassing. This is like a weird experience. Sat in front of you, you got a bit of a smug look on your face.
Well, I know where all the bodies are buried.
You reckon?
Yeah, you've been over the years, very forthcoming over a few beers, so, I'm full right.
That's what all them conversations we've had, off record, are about to come out now.
Yes.
Great.
Now, am I interviewing Freddie Flintoff, or am I interviewing Andrew Flintoff?
Well, it's a strange one. My nickname, Fred, started when I was about 15. I joined Lancashire as a young lad, and the coach at the time called me Fred, Flintoff, Flintstone, and I now introduce myself as Fred. My wife, my mum and dad, and close friends call me Andrew, so you can call me Fred.
There's a verb in the online Urban Dictionary based on your nickname.
Right.
Are you aware of this?
No?
To get Freddied is to enter a state of delight and ecstasy through the use or abuse of alcohol.
Use or abuse? I did have a pint after games and sometimes during when I shouldn't have done. It was all a learning curve. I started playing cricket in an era where drink was very prevalent. You went into a dressing room and, a 4-day game, people would think nothing out of 8 or 10 pints every night. And that you brought
8 or 10?
Yeah. You'd come off, you'd play, and then the 12th man would take a drinks list, and there'd be 5 bitters, 6 lager, you'd have a pint, and you'd have another one. You'd have a couple of pints for the opposition, and a couple of pints over dinner, then a hotel bar. Yeah, it was just a completely different culture to what it is now.
Behind your public persona, there's also a lot of weird phobias that you have, one of which is you're scared of the dark.
I am. Yeah.
Really scared of the dark?
No, genuinely, yeah.
Why?
It was a strange one. I remember we were kids, and all the kids were in the street, and we were, like, washing cars. And this fella Barry said, if you wash the car, you can watch movies in his front room. And we did it, and we went in. We started off with Rocky and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then we watched The Exorcist. I was about 9, and about 2 weeks later, I was on pills for nightmares.
Really?
I couldn't go into a dark room. And now the strange thing is now, as soon as I get home in the house, I got the landing light on for the kids at bedtime, and I can't walk into a dark room.
And if you do, what happens to you?
It's like, when you wake to bat, you get a little bit nervous and you get butterflies. If you times that by 20, that's how I feel going into a dark room.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible.
You're also scared of spiders?
Yes and no.
Depending on?
The size. The bigger the better.
Oh, but the tiny ones?
Like a spider in the bath, I'm no good. Rachel has to sort it out. But then...
You would get your wife to come... You, Freddie Flintoff,
that's why I got married.
Your wife. Andrew Freddie Flintoff, let's take a look at how your big hitting really has bowled us over.
Behind these glasses tells 1,000 stories.
Andrew Freddie Flintoff, everyone's favourite cricketer. His heroics on the pitch and antics off it won the hearts of the nation.
I think every bloke recognises himself in Freddie, and every woman recognises every bloke in Freddie.
He looks like an ordinary guy down the pub, but he just happens to be really good at cricket too.
Most certainly a cricket legend. Was the most disorganised, lazy, overweight cricketer I've ever met.
Oh, massive!
He also had the most talent of someone I'd ever met.
5 for Andrew Flintoff, a glorious moment.
Whether hitting sixes or staggering drunk into Downing Street, Freddie made cricket headline news.
The whole nation was watching cricket.
He was a working class lad who liked to pint, who sometimes did wrong.
I'm ashamed of what I did.
But other times did absolutely great.
Finally, at long last, English cricket had a new superstar.
One for the nation to savour.
Born in Preston into a cricket-loving family, Freddie had a bat in his hand almost from day one.
Against the garage doors with his dad throwing a tennis ball to him batting.
By his teenage years, he was starring for the local men's team.
There was no ball that could bowl at him. He just smashed it everywhere.
Even going through one of the houses, and the family was sat at the table having a meal, and the cricket ball bounced on the table. And
Age 16, Freddie signed his first professional contract with Lancashire. By the age of 20, he was a full England international. But success on the pitch brought new temptations off it.
His lifestyle wasn't really right at 19, 20.
He got brought up in an era of cricket where it weren't as professional as it probably should have been.
You have to rehydrate yourself, but not with 10 pints of lager. Maybe 1 or 2, but not 10, and not every night.
He was buying him and his mates beer, pizza and curries and go out lots, and he did put weight on.
We used to order 19-inch pizzas, so that was part of the staple diet at one point. We'd get a big pizza, and you'd have to be quick off the mark to make sure you got your own fair share.
Soon Freddie's weight was getting more attention than his sporting talent.
The press decided to nail him on that one issue.
He was saying how difficult he was finding it, people were poking fun at his weight, he was struggling.
But I think deep down, he laughed it off at the time, but deep down, I think it had got to him.
Behind closed doors, the focus on Freddie's weight had led to something far more serious.
I remember one night, he did break down a bit and say, yeah, I do have a problem, and I do make myself sick sometimes. And I'm gonna get emotional now.
He might have mentioned to me once or twice that he made himself sick, but it was never anything, something that you'd pick up and think, shit, there's a problem.
I wouldn't have had a clue that he would have had any kind of illness.
He'd go long stretches of not doing it, but sometimes it was when I wasn't there, I think, when he was on his own in hotel rooms, things weren't going right.
Do you think, well, why couldn't you tell, your mum about it? That's Andrew, isn't it?
It is.
Of all the things that I discovered about you in recent years, that was one of the most shocking. I would never have guessed you'd ever had any form of bulimia, which is what you had, and you were making yourself sick for quite a sustained period of time. When you did it for the first time, what was going through your head?
I can't remember the first time, but I did it when, if I'd eaten something which I thought, you know what, I'm going to put weight on with this, or I'd had too much to drink, that's when it started. And then it slowly crept in more and more. And I remember it was, we had this chat, like, the England team, we sat down, and you go through, you get this drugs advisor coming in telling you about drugs in sport, and there's a woman who was a dietitian, and she starts saying about your diet and how she dealt with models, actors, athletes who had eating disorders. And I thought, here we go, I can have a chat with her after this. And then she said, well, I can't imagine there's any of that in here. So I was like, well, I can't say out now, can I? Jeez. And I was on tour in India, and I was doing it a lot. I was like doing it at lunchtime. I'd come off, I'd have something to eat, and I'd go and bowl again.
So you'd come off, you would eat,
it a lot,
and then you'd make yourself sick in the middle of a game?
I'd done it at lunchtime a few times, yeah. Like, in India, I'd have like a curry and naan breads, and then, end up in the toilet.
And how would you be feeling when you did this? Like it was a dirty secret that no one could know about?
Yeah, I was cautious, you looked if anyone's in toilets with you, and then you'd find somewhere to go. And then Rachel mentioned that she rumbled me on holiday in Dubai, and we went in this restaurant, and the portions were tiny, but I still did it. And I said, well... So then she said, you're all right, I said, and I told her there. And I thought I couldn't really tell anyone, because of the world I was in, professional sport, you don't want to give anything away. You want to almost come across as being bulletproof, and that was part of my makeup.
Did you feel any sense of shame that you were doing this?
I think so, but then for a while it came routine. We saw there on the VT, there was that piece in the I think it was in the Sun newspaper, where there was Lennox Lewis on one side, who was world champ at the time, a hero of mine as well. And then on the other side was me, not in quite as good a shape, and it had like Lennox Lewis reach whatever in inches, me reach for the pies. And then it was like, it got nailed.
And when you saw that, you're a young man, you're doing very well at your cricket, but suddenly there's this massive selling newspaper mocking you for being fat.
That came out on a day I was playing a one-day international against Zimbabwe at Old Trafford. And then I've read it, and I thought, oh, no, I'm going to have to go out and stand in the field now. And I'm going to get hammered by a crowd. I did. They called me all sorts.
What were they calling you?
What time does this go out?
After the watershed.
Fat bastard. They called me the honey monster. Kept shouting, I want me honey. I don't even like honey. Right? And, yeah, it was just a constant attack.
At what point did you really think, I've got to sort myself out?
I was playing for Lancashire, and I shouldn't have been in the Lancashire side. I should have been in the second team. Never mind pushing for an England place. And I was in the dressing room at Old Trafford, and we were sat there, and Neil Fairbrother, who was on the VT, one of my great friends, and they just turned around and said, you know, what are you doing? And just had a complete bollocking. And then after that, we put this plan together of how I'm going to get back. Not so much performing for Lancashire, but I want to get back playing for England.
When was the last time you made yourself sick?
I can't physically remember, which is a good thing.
But a long time?
Yeah, so long. It's not like last week or out like that. It's like a long time or years we're talking.
Is it a problem that you'll always have in the back of your mind? I mean, do you fear that one day it'll happen again?
Do you know one thing I've done now is I've really got into training. When I was younger, I hated it. I thought it was a chore. Well, now it's become part of a routine in my life. What we eat at home, you know, Rachel is health conscious, so that's rubbed off. Not had a drink for a long time as well, so yeah, I've thrown myself into professional sport again, and this time I'm going to do it slightly different.
You are accused, Andrew Flintoff, of urinating on the Downing Street flower bed. You were born Andrew Flintoff in Preston, Lancashire in 1977. Your parents are Colin and Susan, both here. Cricket, we know, was always in your blood. What's your first memory of cricket?
I just remember being at cricket grounds. There's nothing like really stands out. When my dad used to cut the grass, used to do the ground. My mum and nan and my auntie used to do the teas. You know, I was always at cricket every Saturday afternoon.
You got your first Lancashire cap, playing for the under-11s. There you are. Very slim line there, Fred.
I know, yeah. Good looking lad, isn't he? But that cap, oh, that's the one thing, like, you win things and you get these awards, are fine. But I've given a lot of things away and I've got nothing up in the house. But that cap was like the most special cricketing possession I've got. Didn't take it. I was sat in the house with it. I just went to wear this cap all the time. I love that cap.
There was a moment when you played cricket early on for Lancashire, for one of the more junior sides, and you got hit somewhere that no cricketer likes being hit.
Yeah.
A particular region that causes maximum pain.
The Goolies, yeah.
Correct.
I was 17 and I was playing against Hampshire. And the thing with cricket equipment is that over the years, the pads, the gloves and everything's moved on. The box, which protects your thing, hasn't. It's like a soap dish. And it offers no protection. And I got hit in there, and it's got these little holes, like air vents, and everything that should have been inside it was seeping through these air vents. It wasn't good. And then luckily it rained, and we came off. And David Lloyd, who was my first coach for Lancashire, England, someone I look up to and respect, he suggested I bathe them in ice water. So I was 17, I'm sat in the dressing room, and I'm sat on the edge of my chair, and I've got them...
in a glass of ice water?
Yeah, I was going to say dangling, but that'd be bragging. But I would say there was in the ice water. And then one of the players, Gary Yates, for some reason had been doing some training, and he came in and he said, oh, I'm a bit parched, then we got a drink. I was like, should I? Yeah. And then he put Gary neck a lot. And then he went out to bat in that same game, and then the announcer, who'd found out, said, and here we got Gary Yates coming number 8 for Lancashire, feeling refreshed by one of Freddie Flintoff's cocktails. Which was, yeah, a proud moment.
Freddie, your performance on and off the field has been staggering in more ways than one. By 2005, a trimmer and fitter Andrew Freddie Flintoff was England's main man. And ready for an Ashes series against Australia that would go down in history.
That summer, I think it captured the imagination of not just cricket fans, but the whole of the nation.
I've never been a big cricket fan, but with that bit in 2005, I started watching it.
Off the pitch, Freddie was happier than ever. He'd married Rachel and had a new baby daughter, Holly.
Everything did happen quite quickly with Andrew, and I don't know, he was just a really nice person. He was funny, he made me laugh a lot.
That was probably the changing point from being a young lad to growing into a man. And I think having that solid family life was one of the big things that helped his career.
England hadn't won an Ashes series in almost 20 years. When Australia won the first match of the series, it seemed like the same old story again.
Flintoff gone too.
When Andrew got out for a duck, I thought, oh no.
The expectation was that for England to win, Freddie had to deliver. And I totally agreed with that, and he didn't deliver in the first game.
The Australians have won this opening Test match.
The next match, England simply couldn't afford to lose. With the game on a knife edge, it was down to one man to turn the tide.
The second Test at Edgbaston would always go down as Freddie's Test.
That's his odd century. That's beautifully played.
Freddie just kept on launching it into the stands.
And there's another bouncer. It's in the air. It's gone for 6. It's a big 6.
Then he gets the ball in hand.
Go, he's got him! Freddie Flintoff!
You were on the edge of your seat. You just knew there's something going to happen.
Beauty! Yes!
Freddie's heroics with bat and ball helped his team to the most dramatic of victories. And he was just getting started.
That is also out.
Like a dream to have a grandson, to play like that.
If you can go on and win the Ashes now?
You've got to. I think they do.
And then it became more and more and more about a hero, about one man.
Freddie made me want to watch cricket, and I think he would have done that to lots of people.
Oh, it's gone up in the air. This will be out-caught. It will be out-caught.
Didn't really have to know a whole lot about cricket to really enjoy that Ashes series.
With cricket fever spreading across the country, England had done the unthinkable. They'd won the Ashes for the first time in 18 years.
That moment, I'll never forget.
Just felt like I'd been playing. You know, great.
Something you dreamed about as a little boy?
Yeah, you got to pinch yourself, you know. We'd probably still think I'm dreaming.
The next day, the bleary-eyed Ashes heroes paraded through the streets of London for the biggest sporting party since 1966, followed by a trip to meet the Prime Minister. As he had on the pitch when it came to celebrating, Freddie led by example.
It was literally all night he had been drinking, and he was wasted. He was completely wasted.
We walked on the bus with Freddie being held up. None of us went to sleep. Thankfully, we had someone in the team like Freddie Flintoff who took all the blame. Perfect for us.
I don't think he remembers much at all, I really don't.
It was one of the greatest sporting triumphs, certainly in my lifetime, and also one of the greatest benders in the history of sport that you led the team on. Do you remember much about it?
Bizarrely, I have flashbacks. At the end of that Test match, we couldn't believe it. It was like there was this party atmosphere at the Oval. You're surrounded by people, and I had no idea the effect it was having on people. I was so wrapped up in it all and enjoying it so much. I didn't want it to end. I wanted another 5 Test matches in that series. I wanted to keep playing. And then when we got off and we sat in the dressing room, we just won the Ashes there. How good's that? And I was sat with Army, Steve Armisen, one of my best mates, in the corner of the dressing room, and I got a cigar and a beer, and he's got the Ashes, and then we just started having a few.
Well, you certainly had a few. I've got the full itinerary here. 6:15 the game ends. Champagne and beers until 10.
Yeah.
Hotel bar at 10:30, more beer. 12 a.m. Soho Club Prophecy.
No, no, not me.
No, you were staying in the hotel.
I didn't leave the hotel. A lot of the lads went off into town,
and they went to this Club Prophecy and ran up a £34,000 bill. You remained in the hotel bar at 5:45 a.m. Gin and tonics, followed by vodka and cranberry.
Healthy.
7 a.m. Rachel puts you in a bath and dresses you.
Yeah.
10:30 a.m. Mansion House, the Lord Mayor's reception. Freddie trips and gets on the bus to Trafalgar Square, drinking champagne directly from a bottle now, presumably to save time. 1:30 p.m. 10 Downing Street, where you swing on Leo's swing. You ask Cherie where the loo is. You're thrown out of the cabinet room for pretending to be the Home Secretary. We believe you then may have thrown up in the garden, and you are accused, Andrew Flintoff, of urinating on the Downing Street flower bed.
It doesn't sound as good when you put it like that.
Do you remember your conversation with the Prime Minister, Mr. Blair?
I didn't have a conversation with him. I didn't speak to him. I was sitting on a swing.
Leo's swing.
Leo's swing. And it was like, that house is amazing. Like, from the front, it looks like a terrace, but it's massive. And we went in the garden, and there was, like, a function going on. And I just stayed out of the way, sat on the swing, and then needed the toilet, and I did ask Cherie where the loos are. And I went for a wee, and then I went exploring around the house. And I thought, I'm not going to get the chance again. It's like through the keyhole, this. It's amazing. And I was sat in the cabinet room, and I thought, this is just so good. So I was sat, and I had my feet on
You'd sneaked in there, right?
Yeah, but I was playing Prime Minister. I wasn't playing Home Secretary. I was playing the big one. And I had a bottle of Beck's in my hand, and I had my feet on the table. And I was, like, hosting my own meeting.
Can you remember how it went?
What about you, Ministry of Defence? What have you got to say? And then I was halfway through the meeting, and then...
You're on your own, are you?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a great imagination. We was having a frank discussion about the budget. At that point, the security guard comes in. He goes, "Oh, Fred, you've had your fun now." All right, guilty as charged. I got put down back to where everyone was drinking, and then we came outside 10 Downing Street, and we stood outside, and all the photographers are out there taking pictures of the team. You know, I'm stood next to Kevin.
Kevin Peterson.
Yeah, Kevin Peterson. But there's one person worse than me and Kevin, Matthew Hoggard. You don't want to be next to Hoggy when he's sober. Never mind when he's drunk. And he was stood next to the Prime Minister. And he was just trying to make small talk to Tony Blair. So, what are all these people doing here? And Hoggy turned around and said, "For you, you're the Prime Minister, you knob." He's like, "No, Hoggy." And then we just got whistled out, back on the bus, and shipped off to Lords.
And winning the Ashes in that way, and the parade and everything else, it turns you from, you know, well-known sportsman, I guess, into a sporting megastar. How did it change your life?
It was different, and it was pretty much instant. It was bizarre. There's, like, people outside my house with cameras. And I was like, what do you want? I'm just going to the shop. And then you get asked to do various TV programmes, and then you start going to different functions. You know, I went to David Beckham's World Cup party, and I was sat on this table, and it was like half the team, and he's going round and introducing himself, and he's brought his mate with him. I thought, I recognise this fella, I recognise him from somewhere. He comes over, and I twigged, he's Puff Daddy. So he's come out, I didn't know what to call him, so I just said, "Hiya, Puff." Nice to meet you. And he's looked at me, and Beckham's like that looking, and he says, "My name," not in this accent, but he said, "My name's Sean." Yeah, but yeah, it was bizarre, some of the stuff you was getting invited to. We had a nice day at the Palace, mine.
Do you remember what the Queen said to you?
Yeah, I do, yeah. She's amazing, isn't she? Oh, she's brilliant.
Yeah, she's one of my best pals, really.
Yeah. So you've got an MBE, have you?
No, I've been surprisingly overlooked. For,
yeah, we got to the queue, and the Queen's got this amazing aura about her. You know, you drive in the Palace and you see it, and then she's there. And I got to the front of the queue, and you got to walk forward, and then you're not quite sure what to say or how to behave. And She says, "You kept us on the edge of our seats." I says, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, kept us guessing. I says, "Yeah." And then afterwards in the drinks reception, she came over, and I had a show in a racehorse as well. And then she said, "I see you've got a runner at Carlisle tomorrow."
Really?
Has he got a chance? I says, "Yeah, it's worth a couple of quid, Your Majesty." It was like, this is the Queen. It was unbelievable.
Your horse was called Flintoff?
Yeah, it was just fat and slow. I was like smashing the room up. I was like hitting the door, and you know, I was really pent up.
Let's talk about your wife, Rachel. Do you remember your first date?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
It was in Birmingham, and I was playing a test match. She was in the hospitality box afterwards, and I saw her. I'm not good at this type of stuff, Piers, like women and things. I had a drink, and then I asked her if she wanted to go out the following night after the game.
No, it went fine, but the problem was the next day 2 pieces appeared in newspapers.
Jeez.
One was about cricket and what a great cricket player you were, and the other one was a kiss and tell from a former girlfriend who was not very complimentary.
No. I was taking Rachel out on the Sunday, and we was at Edgbaston. And I turned up for the last day of the test match, and I've walked in the dressing room, and all I can see are newspapers up. All the lads are sat in the chairs, the newspaper, he's here, he's here. And then I can see all these shoulders bouncing up and down behind them. And I said, "Oh, what is it, lads? Let's have a look." And they've turned it round.
Well, let's see what they were looking at here. God. The one on the left is the one that you liked. The one on the right wasn't quite so complimentary.
Well, you say that. I was just pleased you thought I could bowl fast. It was...
So here you've got this beautiful, hot woman that you've just taken on a great date and it's all going well, and then this happened.
I was nervous enough without that happening. And so we met her and every show on our table. I had a couple of drinks, and I plucked up the courage to say, have you seen any press today? She goes, "Oh, there's a lovely piece in the Times about you." I was like, yes, get him. And then about 11:30, he said, "Oh, I also saw a piece in the News of the World." It was like, "Did you?" And I suppose, you know, you start your relationship like that, then, you know, you've got to like me, actually.
You got married. Tell us about your stag do.
Budapest. Amazing. I had 55 of my closest mates. It got out of hand a little bit.
55?
Yeah, I didn't know some of them.
55 people?
Well, I had my core of friends, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. We ate at this medieval restaurant, and there was these stocks, so they put me in these stocks, and then my mates cut the middle of my hair out. And I'm getting married in 6 days. So they did me, then they did my ushers and my best men.
Well, we have got a wedding pic. Let's have a look. Was Rachel pleased?
No. Would you be pleased marrying that?
Freddie, your epic performances on the pitch saw you riding the crest of a wave, but it was becoming a struggle for you to stay afloat. The historic 2005 Ashes triumph rocketed Andrew Freddie Flintoff to superstardom.
He'd become a folk hero almost, never mind a national hero.
There were helicopters picking him up and he was playing cricket at Windsor Castle and things like that, you know.
It did change our lives.
He was thrust onto the world celebrity stage, and everybody at that period, wherever he went, wanted to shake his hand, wanted to buy him a drink.
In November 2006, England headed down under for another showdown against Australia. Achieving a lifetime ambition, Freddie was named captain.
I'll be leading from the front and with a hell of a lot of pride.
And everybody were desperate for him to be the man to bring the Ashes home and win in Australia.
But from the very start, the series was a disaster.
He wasn't as fit as he was in '05, and he couldn't carry everybody else. and very quickly it became heartbreak rather than elation.
Oh, edged and gone. Freddie Flintoff has had it.
It's understandable that his form dropped. You know, the pressures of captaincy is huge.
Andrew Flintoff's misery continues.
They got an absolute tanning. It's no fun getting beaten.
Skipper Freddie was powerless to prevent his side crashing to 3 straight defeats.
Returns to Australia.
The 2006-7 Ashes ended in a humiliating 5-0 whitewash. For Freddie, it was a massive blow.
He was really, really down, you know. He was down.
Didn't speak, did he?
He just put his arms around me and he says, "I'm sorry, Dad." Like, you know, I said, "You don't need to be sorry." He said, "But it's been so hard. I can't tell you how hard it is."
He burst into tears because he thought he had let them down. He'd probably say it was one of the worst parts of his life.
He's a very, very patriotic man, but it just didn't work. But I know it hurt him. I know it hurt him a lot.
Struggling on and off the pitch, Freddie was replaced as captain by the returning Michael Vaughan for the 2007 World Cup.
And I just looked at Fred around the team, and he wasn't Fred. I knew there was a problem. He was drinking more, and I just felt that there was something that needed to be done with him.
He was on the floor and he was struggling and couldn't see a way out of it for a while.
Things went from bad to worse for Freddie when a late-night drinking session became a global news story.
England cricketer Andrew Flintoff has apologised for letting down fans and the team after reports that he'd had to be rescued after drunkenly capsizing a pedalo.
You know, you'd thought he'd shot somebody, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah, murdered somebody.
And I just thought, oh my God, is there no other news more important than this?
Freddie was fined and suspended from playing.
I've had the support of the team and the support of the management, you know, and family and friends back home, which I really appreciate, because in some ways I feel obviously I've let them down.
If you're not winning, you're not allowed to go out and fall off pedalos, basically.
He made a stupid mistake.
There was a knock at the door and there was this man and he had all these flowers and a box of chocolates for me. And there was like a little note on saying, "I'm sorry, Mum, everything will be all right." You know, because as a mum, you know, I found it quite very upsetting, really. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a massive cricket fan. You're one of my heroes, but when I read that, I did think, Fred, you've just been trounced in an Ashes series. 5-0. All the good stuff from 05 has now been replaced by all this horrendous negativity. What are you doing, going out, getting wrecked?
I think I was asking myself the same questions. What are you doing?
What was the answer to your head?
Well, the answer was, you know what, I don't know. We'd played New Zealand on the Friday. It was the first game of the World Cup. Things hadn't been going well. We were just coming off the back of the Ashes and various things. And I was so desperate to do well in this World Cup. And I went out, I got a duck, out first ball, actually. And then I didn't get a wicket, and we got beat. And we went back to the hotel room, and some of the lads were going out afterwards. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to go out. I was in my room. I was like smashing the room up. I was like...
Literally smashing the room up?
I wasn't breaking tellies or like that, but I was like hitting the door and, you know, I was really pent up. I thought, no, I'm going to go out for a bit. So I went to this bar called Limey's in St Lucia on the corner and ordered a rum punch. I had a few more. And about 1:30 I thought, you know what, I'm hammered here. Go home. So I walked back, and to get from reception of the hotel to my room, I had to walk partially across the beach. And then for some reason, I had this idea, these boats out to sea. It sounds bizarre. But I knew Ian Botham was on one, and I thought, you know, I'm going to have a nightcap with Beefy. And I thought, I can't swim, that'd be dangerous. So I was gonna get a kayak, but I couldn't find like the oars to things. So I dragged this pedalo into the water. And as I was doing it, I was like getting jolted around, and the waves were breaking. I couldn't get on it, and I was not through the lack of trying. And I admit it. And then I fell in and let it go. Just let it go. And then the security guard got me and took me to my room. And then the next morning I woke up, and I was like on my bed, and I'm still wet, and I got sand between my toes. I'm thinking, and then the door knocked. The door had like these slats on it, and I thought it was like rooms, like the maid wanted to clean the room. So will you come back? And it was the coach. So oh god, so I put the slats down, and answered the door, and then Duncan just said, "My room now."
He was the team coach, Duncan.
Duncan Fletcher, yeah. So I went down the room and dissected it and went through it all. And you know, there's some of the details in it were exaggerated, but I wasn't in a position to argue. But the one thing which really hurt was I got banned. I got banned for that game on a Sunday. And it's one thing, I missed a lot of cricket through injury, which you can't do anything about. When you get banned, you know, I think it was like a real low point. I was in the room and I welled up, and yeah, I had to face the press. And I had this press conference. And I walked through the hotel reception, and the England fans were like, who only months previously were like cheering your name and how are you, Fred, and high-fiving you. Were like, I just walked amongst them, just like touching and shaking their heads. And like, I couldn't make eye contact with them, and I thought, oh, this is not good.
Is there a truth in what was said earlier that if you'd been winning, you can drink as much as you like? Nobody cares.
I think it's...
But if you're losing, fans get quite irrational and say, hey, hang on a second.
I think the problem lies in, probably personally, the reasons for drinking. You know, you drink to celebrate, which everyone can accept. The worst thing is, you know, I started drinking a little bit just to escape for them, you know, a few hours when you have a drink, and then everything seems to be fine, and everything's all right, and you forget yourself for a little bit, but then you wake up the next morning, and it's like everything's compounded by 10. You know, you feel terrible again, and for a while I got into this like vicious circle of doing that.
Your father said that when you lost the Ashes, obviously they came out, and you broke down when you saw him.
Yeah.
And you felt very bad that you'd let down your parents.
And it seemed everything I'd done so far, I'd got through, and I'd come through it and come through it and come through it. And like, this was like the final piece in the puzzle. This was like the last thing, England captain. This is the one thing you work for. And I couldn't do it. I'll admit that now. It was one job too many. And I remember it was Christmas Eve in Melbourne, and we're staying in this apartment, and we had a few drinks at Christmas Eve and celebrating, and then, yeah, I broke down. It just all went too much.
And looking back, you think you were depressed?
Yeah, yeah. Rachel phoned me. She says, can you hear that in the background? So what is it? I said, it's your son. So you've had a baby then?
Cricket is notorious for massive periods of absence from families. You've got 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. You missed one of your sons' birth because you were playing for England and decided not to go back.
Yeah.
It was a huge scandal at the time that you chose to do that. Any regrets about that decision?
Originally, I planned to come back for the birth. Logistically, I don't think it could have happened anyway. And I had a chat with Rachel, and she said, well, you know what? When he gets older and he asks why weren't you there, you can say you've been England captain. And hopefully that'll be enough. I'm not sure it's going to be. But yeah, and it's something I wrestle with every now and then. I was there for the other 2, but missed his, and I found out I was in a taxi in a place called Chandigarh in the Punjab. And Rachel phoned me, and I said, oh, are you all right? She says, yeah, can you hear that in the background? So what is it? So it's your son. So you've had a baby then. But yeah, I would love to have been there, but hopefully you'll understand.
What do your kids think you do? You've done so many varied things since cricket. They weren't really old enough when you played cricket, I guess, to appreciate what you were doing. What do they think Dad's job is?
I think it confuses them. It's bizarre because when I played cricket the other week, the kids have watched it at home. The 2 boys haven't really seen me play. And I got back, and then my boys ran to the door as it opened. And Rocky, who's the youngest, he's 6, he said, Dad, that was great. They'd never had as much respect for me. Ever, I don't think. It was like, just wanted to talk about the cricket all the time, and so they were really excited by it.
Freddie, your body's taken a battering over the years, but you can never keep a good man down. In 2009, Freddie, now battling a serious knee injury, announced he would retire from Test cricket at the end of the summer.
The
the reality was his body just wouldn't take it anymore.
The amount of operations he had to have, I mean, one after the other after the other. He was sort of like a bag of broken pencils at one point.
And my body's telling me it's time, you know, to give in.
Playing through the pain, he gave fans plenty to remember him by. Taking on Australia one last time.
Nothing was going to stop him. And I don't think he really cared about his body or what he could do to it afterwards. It was literally just getting through each game and getting through the series.
And he bowled the Australians out basically on one leg.
5 for Andrew Flintoff, a glorious moment.
I've got to admit that I cried when he got his 5 wickets at Lord's.
Freddie's final test match ended in a second Ashes triumph. The next day, he had knee surgery that he hoped would prolong his career. But after a year, he received shattering news.
He was told that was it. Your knees you won't be able to play again. And if you do, you could really hurt yourself.
He was in a pretty bad state at that stage, and I did advise him that really for the foreseeable future, he certainly shouldn't run on that knee.
When I went to see him in hospital, he was just out of it. The pain he was having.
Retiring at 31, things like that, you know, sarcastically. So it did affect him a lot.
But a final major operation improved the condition of Freddie's knee and allowed him to throw himself fist first into training for a whole new challenge. In 2012, a 6,000-strong crowd watched Freddie take on American heavyweight fighter Richard Dawson.
He probably thought it was Rocky.
And you were like a combine harvester, thrashing away.
I don't think I looked up. I think I had my head down all the time. Just found it horrendous.
Being knocked over, a lot of people would have let that get to them and just think, oh my God, I've lost now.
Freddie Flintoff, 39 points.
But I was that far away from crying because I was that proud of him when he finished that fight. So I just thought, unbelievable.
When he goes for something, he goes for it.
I was so proud of him, so emotional.
I just burst into tears. I think it was just a relief, you know, that it was over and done with.
Earlier this year, Freddie again surprised everyone by making a dramatic return to cricket.
Pleased for him, really, really chuffed to bits.
First for his local team, then his beloved Lancashire.
It's something he needed to do. He needed to get this out of his system. The romantic story that went along with that and wearing the red rose for him is everything.
He always said he would never play for anybody else.
It's wonderful, really. This fella's my grandson.
You're slightly wobbling, aren't you?
I'm all right, Piers. I'm all right. Not much I was wobbling in that ring. Jeez.
When you look back, Freddie, at the whole career you had, what's the moment, if I had the power to relive any moment for you right now, which moment would you choose?
It'd have to be the Ashes series. It was...
The first one?
Yeah, the first one. You know, I grew up playing cricket and I love the game. And I was just thinking, I could never have dreamt that it could be this good. It was everything that I ever imagined and 100 times more.
My favourite moment of that whole series actually came when the legendary Australian fast bowler Brett Lee had been at the end trying to survive, and at the last minute they lost their last wicket and England had won that test. And while everyone was running off celebrating, you turned and you went back to Brett Lee and he was crouched down on his knees and he was completely distraught. And you just put your arm around him and consoled him. And for many people, I think that was the moment they remembered, because it meant you weren't just a great player, but you were a great sportsman.
I was always taught from a young age playing for Lancashire that you respect the opposition. You've got plenty of time to celebrate as a team afterwards. You shake the umpire's hand, you shake the batter's hand, you shake the opposition's hand, and that's something that lived with me all the way along.
What I heard was that actually, when you bent down and put your arm around him, you said, Take that, you Aussie bastard.
Depends what circles I'm in. I can't actually remember what I said. It came out of my mouth. It's not going to be profound. That's just what you do. That's what you do.
Freddie, to me, you're one of the great players I've ever had the pleasure of watching. But you're more than that. You're someone that everyone in this audience, of any age, male, female, can relate to as what they would think is a great English sporting hero. And it's been an absolute pleasure to go through your life story. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Piers.
Thanks very much. Andrew Freddie Flintoff is a wild beast on and off a cricket field.
There's certain things which I'm more proud of than others.
Freddie became one of the great English sporting heroes after the 2005 Ashes. But what came after that was not so good.
I have made a few mistakes. Downing Street drinks, peddlers.
Andrew Flintoff has apologised for letting down fans and the team after his late-night drinking binge in St Lucia.
I think people assume that Freddie is one of these, happy-go-lucky kind of guys. Actually, he's much more complicated than that. He's admitted now to having bouts of depression, being bulimic.
I regard myself as a pretty honest bloke. I'll give him an honest answer.
He will have no control. That's what's going to make this a lot of fun.
I would sooner face any bowler in the world with no pads, no gloves, no helmet, no box, than spend an evening being questioned by Piers Morgan. Or actually an evening with Piers Morgan.
See, they're all suddenly cheering there. You're like a national treasure, aren't you?
It's a little bit embarrassing. This is like a weird experience. Sat in front of you, you got a bit of a smug look on your face.
Well, I know where all the bodies are buried.
You reckon?
Yeah, you've been over the years, very forthcoming over a few beers, so, I'm full right.
That's what all them conversations we've had, off record, are about to come out now.
Yes.
Great.
Now, am I interviewing Freddie Flintoff, or am I interviewing Andrew Flintoff?
Well, it's a strange one. My nickname, Fred, started when I was about 15. I joined Lancashire as a young lad, and the coach at the time called me Fred, Flintoff, Flintstone, and I now introduce myself as Fred. My wife, my mum and dad, and close friends call me Andrew, so you can call me Fred.
There's a verb in the online Urban Dictionary based on your nickname.
Right.
Are you aware of this?
No.
To get Freddied is to enter a state of delight and ecstasy through the use or abuse of alcohol.
Use or abuse? I did have a pint after games and sometimes during when I shouldn't have done. It was all a learning curve. I started playing cricket in an era where drink was very prevalent. You went into a dressing room and, a 4-day game, people would think nothing out of 8 or 10 pints every night. And that you brought
8 or 10?
Yeah. You'd come off, you'd play, and then the 12th man would take a drinks list, and there'd be 5 bitters, 6 lager, you'd have a pint, and you'd have another one. You have a couple of pints for the opposition, and a couple of pints over dinner, then the hotel bar. Yeah, it was just a completely different culture to what it is now.
Behind your public persona, there's also a lot of weird phobias that you have, one of which is you're scared of the dark.
I am. Yeah.
Really scared of the dark?
No, genuinely, yeah.
Why?
It was a strange one. I remember we were kids, and all the kids were in the street, and we were, washing cars. And this fella, Barry, said, if you wash the car, you can watch movies in his front room. And we did it, and we went in. We started off with Rocky and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then we watched The Exorcist. I was about 9, and about 2 weeks later, I was on pills for nightmares.
Really?
I couldn't go into a dark room. And now the strange thing is now, as soon as I get home, in the house, I got the landing light on for the kids, at bedtime. And I can't walk into a dark room.
And if you do, what happens to you?
It's like, when you wait to bat, you get a little bit nervous and you get butterflies. If you times that by 20, that's how I feel going into a dark room.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible.
You're also scared of spiders?
Yes and no.
Depending on?
The size. The bigger the better.
Oh, but the tiny ones?
Like a spider in the bath, I'm no good. Rachel has to sort it out. But then...
You would get your wife to come... You, Freddie Flintoff.
That's why I got married.
Your wife. Andrew Freddie Flintoff, let's take a look at how your big hitting really has bowled us over.
Behind these glasses tells 1,000 stories.
Andrew Freddie Flintoff, everyone's favourite cricketer.